What's up, everybody? On today's video, I got to sit down with top real estate agent and social media strategist Mike Sherrard, who shares the mindsets and habits that have made him successful over and over again. Well, hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm super honored that you're checking out this video. I'm really excited about today's conversation that I got to have with none other than Mike Sherrard. Now, if you don't know who Mike Sherrard is, then you need to pause this video and go search anything related to real estate and social media on YouTube, and you will see all of his videos. Mike was not only a top producing agent himself in Canada, but he has some world-class social media courses as well. And so I had the honor and privilege of just sitting down with him, picking his brain, and really trying to pull back the curtains, get under the hood, get behind the scenes, and figure out, Mike, what has made you successful in real estate? What has made you successful in the social media world? And the conversation that we had is absolutely full of nuggets, actionable tips, and some brain busters that you are gonna wanna be taking notes on. It was an incredible conversation, so let's check it out. Mike, welcome to The Prosperous Agent.
Thank you, man. Super excited to be here and to dive in.
Well, I'm super honored that you've taken some time out of your day to spend with us and our audience here. Why don't we just do this? I know a lot of people probably know who you are. A lot of people have probably seen your content on YouTube. But for those that maybe don't know who Mike Sherrard is, why don't you take just a minute and kind of tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. I'll kind of get the quick and dirty of it where, I got started in engineering. I took 2 degrees in 3 years and realized that the corporate world just wasn't going to get me to where I want to be. So after I was identified as top employee 60,000 in my first year, they said, where do you want to go? And I wanted to get compensated on my efforts. So I said sales, and they said, great, 7 years technical experience. And I quit the next day. So around that time, very typical story, I was buying my own property. Realtors weren't doing the best job. And I said, okay, I've always been very entrepreneurial minded, reading books and things like that. And I said, I understand that if you want to thrive in entrepreneurship in any industry, you have to learn marketing, branding, and sales. And I was always interested in real estate investing. And I figured, well, I think there's opportunities here because there's people that are not doing things in the most innovative way up here in Canada back in 2017. So what if I get my real estate license, learn marketing, branding, and sales, and see where that takes me? So I did that. And in my first year, I became a top producer in the slowest market in North America. And ever since then, it's been really cool just to see what's happened where now, residually, I make more than my annual salary as an engineer every single month. And I've made my annual salary per day before without having to work. So it's really cool to see that, once you start chasing a passion, it's really going to help you understand what you're worth. And some people realize they're worth less than what they would have if they were at a salary. Some people realize they're worth a lot more. And I think that comes down to work ethic because it really allows you to shine and develop your skill set. So top producing agent for 3 years at my past brokerages. And then I transitioned to our brokerage, the EXP. And in the last 2 years, I've been able to break every record in terms of personal growth at the company on a global level. And now just continuing to try and impact lives.
Wow. I love it, man. Well, there's a lot to dive into there. I want to go back just a little bit to where, okay, you're a brand new agent. In 2017, obviously the market is very different than the market we're in today. And you were able to come into a market that you said was maybe a slower market and be a top producer. And so, I mean, unpack that for me a little bit. What allowed a complete newbie, a young agent, to step into this market and start dominating? I mean, was it a mindset? Was it a tactic? Unpack that for us a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. In Calgary, we were in this little kind of bubble because we're straight oil and gas. So when oil tanks, we've got a population of 1.1 million people, probably 600,000 working, and 100,000 jobs were lost in 6 months. So in our city, the rest of Canada was fine. In our city, we were hooped. Less than 30% of listings were selling. So for me, it really came down to just work ethic and mindset. And for me, for example, the day that I got my real estate license, I went out door knocking in -10 in the snow, in the dark, in the evening. And I got 2 listings of $700,000 a piece the first day I was licensed. And I remember I had my notepad that I was door knocking, and my hands were so cold because it was -10 for 3 hours that I couldn't even write names anymore. I got back home and I'm like, dude, I can't even follow up with these people. I don't even know their names.
Wow.
But that's kind of the work ethic that I had. Is I realized that when things are tough, everybody else backs off, and it just leaves a wide open gate for people that want to take market share and that are willing to get outside of that and realize, hey, if I can crush it in a difficult market, just wait till you see what happens when the market turns around. And a lot of people just falter, right? They're like, okay, the market's tough, it ain't for me. Well, if you look at, every agent that's been in the industry for decades, they've all been through multiple cycles, and every time they take market share. So I was just relentless with it. I was not only relentless with the work ethic, but also that's where I started learning the social media strategies and things like that, because I said, okay, everybody else is playing to the same tune. I'm going to not only outwork people with the door knocking, but I want to out leverage people creatively with modern strategies that people in my market aren't yet using, which back at that time, nobody was running Facebook ads. Nobody was leveraging YouTube or properly leveraging Instagram. So it really allowed me to, in a difficult market, separate myself from other agents where everybody else was saying, hey, I'll list it on the MLS. I've got 20 years experience. And I was like, hey, I can literally prove to you I can get your home in front of more people than any other agent in the market. And I'm mutually invested because I'm spending my money to market your property, not just uploading it. And people liked that kind of collaborative team effort approach where we both have skin in the game, and that I could show them the data and the analytics of what I did differently. So when I could show it, not just talk about it, it made a complete difference. And that's where within 4 months, I broke into the multiple 7-figure luxury industry as well.
Wow. You kind of mentioned this in passing, but I even think like you found a unique selling proposition that separated or really differentiated yourself in the market. And we were talking about that in our Facebook group yesterday. There's 7,000 agents in my market, and I don't know everyone else's, but I think that's such an important thing to be asking ourselves is, how are we differentiating ourselves? There's 7,000 other people who can essentially do what I do in my city, right? So I think that's really, really powerful. I'd love you to speak just a little bit more, and you hit some mindset stuff in there, but I'm such a big believer that at the end of the day, the playing field is equal, right? I think sometimes there can be this perception that top producers have like a secret lead source, or they have access to, I think it's just, I think we can tend to think that when we're struggling or we're a newer agent, but it's not reality, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. We all have access to the same training, coaching, leads, resources. And yet some agents go out and make 7 figures and some struggle to put food on the table. And so I think it comes down to mindset. And I would love to hear, again, I know you hit on it a little bit, but what are some beliefs that you have about yourself? What are some beliefs you have about business that you feel like have consistently allowed you to separate yourself? You've done it in real estate, you've done it in social media, and now you've done it at EXP. So to me, that's a mindset thing. That's not, oh, Mike has these like tricky, sneaky things he's doing. It's you're applying a mindset and a belief system wherever you go. And I know it's a huge question, but if you could maybe speak to that a little bit, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I kind of live by this quote where it says that if one man can do something, another can too. And I live by that because, when I started on social media, for example, with my YouTube channel, very small, not getting any views, no subscribers for a year, I always inherently believe, well, if all of these other people have succeeded by committing to this in their industry, why can't I? So whenever I go into anything, the reason why, I'm so good at embracing consistency for long periods of time and delayed gratification is because I know, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. And a lot of people think that if they can do it, well, they must have something magical that helped them, or they must have a bigger budget or whatever. And that's not the case. So for me, it's just been committing to processes that everybody else has proven to work. There's 1 million people that have proven they can make 7 figures a year in door knocking. Same with cold calling, same with Facebook ads, same with YouTube, Instagram, like anything works. And if others can do it, you can too, but you have to be consistent with it. So that's been a huge thing for me. And also, taking complete ownership of everything, right? I believe, and I make it my fault, no matter what. Everything is my fault. Because the only way that you can actually take control of your life is if you take full ownership of everything in your life. Even if it's not your fault, find a way to make it. Because a lot of people are struggling because they're pointing the finger. It's my broker's fault. It's my sponsor's fault. It's the industry's fault. It's my trainer's fault. It's the support staff's fault. It's my family's fault. Like, they're always pointing the finger, which is always passing the buck in terms of the blame. Whereas when you can take ownership of it, that's when you can take control of it as well and start to make calculated decisions to actually improve over time. So that's been a really big one for me. And just always looking at being a constant learner, I think, because the ones that win in entrepreneurship and business are not the ones that have the most money or the most intellect. It's the ones that are the most adaptable. And if you're the most willing to adapt to innovation, different market conditions, different styles of business, you're going to be malleable in a way where you can always position yourself to be at the forefront of whatever is going on, versus a lot of people just want to stay set in their ways. Like, a lot of people stop learning after college or high school, because in the past, if they didn't learn certain things, you got a big F on your test and you failed and you had to redo it. Well, in business, if you don't learn these new skills like getting on camera, doing video, running ads, well, all that happens is the repercussions are delayed. So you're still going to fail. It's just going to be in 6 months when you're broke. It's not going to be immediate this week when you failed the test, right? So a lot of people have a difficult time conceptualizing what they're not doing and what that's going to turn into. And I think the last thing is, one of the guys that I follow a lot, Alex Hormozi, says this incredible video where he talks about volume, time, and skill, right? And it's kind of like a triangle in terms of what you need to develop. And a lot of people are trying to develop a skill and be very strong at a skill, but they have no time into it and they haven't put in enough volume. So for me, people are wondering, like, how are you good on camera? Well, I put out 400 videos. So you're going to become pretty good, because over 3 years, which is the time component, volume, which is 400 videos, the skill set has inherently developed. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are scared to take risk and scared to get outside of their comfort zone because they say, well, I'm not good at it today. Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't good at anything when I got started. So the only way you can improve is to actually take action repeatedly over time. And that's where you need to overcompensate on volume in the beginning, mm-hmm. and for a long period of time to then develop the skill set. But a lot of people, and I put out a video about this yesterday, saying, a lot of agents say, I'm a perfectionist, right? I'm not going to do something until it's perfect. Well, mm-hmm. your script's never going to be perfect until you've got rejected 100 times and you figured out 100 things that don't work. Right. So that you know what does, right? Your videos are never going to be perfect if you haven't put out 50 videos to figure out how to improve over time. The only way you can reach perfectionism is through repeated action, but that takes action and takes getting started. And most mm-hmm. people just aren't. So I think the last thing to kind of summarize that is living by the notion that done is better than perfect, and imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. I'd rather get something out there, done, and improve over time than wait for it to be beautiful and perfect, because in 6 months anyway, you'll look back and realize it was not that great.
Mm-hmm. So good, man. You shared so much gold in that. One of the things I love that you shared most about, and I'm such a big believer in, is at the beginning of what you were just sharing, you said everything works. And I believe that. And I think the biggest mistake most agents make is they don't give any one thing. It's like, well, I tried Zillow ads for a couple of weeks and I didn't close a big deal. So now I'm trying realtor ads. Now I'm trying Facebook now. And they just never stick to something long enough to see the fruit. And so I think that's really, really powerful for sure. Let me see here. A couple more questions for you. I would be remiss to have Mike Sherrard on a podcast and not ask you anything about social media. And so I'd love to know, just for our audience, is there maybe like one YouTube video that you could point him to? I know all your stuff is great, but that would maybe be like very practically helpful for someone that's maybe trying to get their feet wet. I'd love to hear what you might point him to, and then I can link that below.
Yeah, of course. Like, the one that comes to mind is the one that performs the best, which is, it's just simply called the Complete Social Media Marketing Plan for Real Estate Agents. And it's literally me. I've got two versions of it. One is 2 years old. One is current. Both are getting very good feedback. And basically on the older one, I use a whiteboard. On the newer one, I use my iPad, and I break down every single platform and just the Coles Notes, the quick and dirty of what you need to do to get tangible results. So not what you need to do to be an expert at it, but all that you need to do to get started that's actually going to lead to leads and deals, right? So breaking down, what to post, how often to post, what type of ads you can run to get your feet wet, how much money you could be spending at a bare minimum to get tangible results. And I just simply break it down to say, hey, you're, maybe just getting started, not that techy, don't have the biggest budget, that's all good. Let's just get started with what we can right now. And here's kind of a blueprint of how to do that. So those videos have done quite well. And the feedback's been great from people that have watched them, because it's very simple. It's very visual because I'm walking them through it. And it makes sense because it's not overwhelming. It's not saying you have to post every single day. It's like, hey, let's post 2 to 3 times a week. And here's what you can do.
So good. Okay. Complete social media marketing plan. So we'll be sure and link that. My favorite way to end conversations with guests, and one of my favorite questions to ask people is, if you could go back in time, maybe it's 2017, obviously you kind of came out of the gate being successful, but what would be maybe one piece of advice you would go back in time and give yourself, knowing what you know now, having experienced what you've experienced now, what would be one piece of advice you'd give yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice that I would have given, and this is one thing that I've openly admitted that I did really wrong, is that it is way cheaper to acquire a client through somebody that you've already worked with than to acquire a new client from a cold audience. So what I mean by that is this is why it's important when you look at any top producing agent, they've all built their business through repeat and referral, because it's way easier and way cheaper to close a deal through somebody that's either already worked with you or is a referral. But my approach was just, I'm going to bulldoze this industry, and I'm just going to focus on getting a ridiculous amount of leads and closing all these new people, which I did well. I tripled my production in my second year, but it was exhausting and it was not efficient. It was not predictable, and it was not efficient because you create no leverage because you're always chasing the next one. So I would have spent way more time on properly nurturing the people that I had and servicing them to the highest degree, instead of always trying to go out and hunt for new clients and new leads and new deals, because that would have allowed me to create a more predictable business, a more scalable business, and one that runs more efficiently with less time and less stress, always having to go out and wonder where the heck the next person's coming from. So that was a big thing that I did incorrectly. And I think if there was a second part to that, it would have been looking at who I was aligning myself with in terms of training. Because for me, sure, I did really good at Instagram and Facebook ads and things like that. But I had to waste all my money to figure out what didn't work, because I didn't have anybody to show me what did work. With YouTube, it took me 2 years. It took me 1 year to get to 167 subscribers, and I'm pretty sure 166 were friends. and then it took another year after that to get to 3,000. Well, that's because I had no clue what I was doing on these platforms, because I didn't have the training. So I was trying to figure it out myself. And what I've learned over the last couple of years is that it's important to align yourself with groups that have the right training, mentorship, and coaching, because it's all about shortening the learning curve. I could have done double what I did in my first year and second year if I was able to just go straight to what works and not have to waste my money and time and stress figuring it out myself, and then, kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, which is what a lot of people fall victim to. So I think those were the two biggest things, which is just focusing on what you have and not always just acquiring more, because long-term that's going to build a more scalable, predictable business. And then the last thing is, again, aligning yourself with the right group that's going to give you the training tools, resources, and assets to crush it in any market, shorten the learning curve so you can go straight to what works.
Wow. That's good, man. Really, really, really powerful stuff. Well, you shared so much actionable content today. I was taking some notes here as we talked, and just thankful for you, thankful for your time, thankful that I get to be a part of our organization for sure. So I appreciate you.
Definitely, man. Thank you so much. And hopefully your audience finds it valuable.
All right, everybody. Well, there you have it. I hope that that conversation is a blessing to your real estate business. I know that it will be to mine. Again, I am actively looking for agents to partner with. So you have any interest in learning what that looks like, please head on over to kevinscoggin.com/partner with me, or you can just click the link below.